My aunt made me promise to never contact my biological father. The dusty shoebox fell from my hands, scattering 22 years of lies across my aunt's attic floor. I'd only come up here to grab Christmas decorations for Linda, the woman who raised me after Mom died when I was 3. The woman who'd spent my entire life telling me that my biological father, Marcus Webb, was a deadbeat drug addict who'd abandoned us without a trace. The woman who, according to the letters now scattered at my feet, had been systematically destroying every attempt my father made to contact me. My hands shook as I picked up the first envelope. It was addressed to me in careful block letters, for Emma Webb Sullivan, care of Linda Sullivan. Postmarked December 15, 2010, my 9th birthday. I tore it open with trembling fingers. Asterisk, Dear Emma. Happy 9th birthday, sweetheart. I hope you got the presents I sent to your school. I wasn't sure if Linda would give them to you if I sent them to the house. I'm still fighting in court to see you, but my lawyer says it might take time. Please know that Daddy loves you and thinks about you every single day. Love forever. Dad asterisk. My chest felt tight. I'd never received any presents. Linda always said my father never remembered my birthday. The next letter was dated 6 months later. Then another. And another. 22 years worth of birthday cards, Christmas presents, Father's Day wishes sent to a daughter who never knew he cared. Each envelope had been carefully slit open, read by Linda, then hidden away. But it wasn't just the letters that made my blood run cold. Tucked beneath the correspondence was a manila folder labeled Legal Documents. Inside, I found child support payment records showing consistent monthly deposits of $800 from Marcus Webb, starting just after Mom's funeral and continuing until my 18th birthday. Payments totaling over $172,000 that Linda had been collecting while telling me we survived on her waitressing salary and Mom's small life insurance policy. There was more. Bank statements showing the life insurance payout wasn't the $25,000 Linda claimed, it was $400,000. Legal documents from 2002 showing my father's petition for visitation rights, and Linda's response filed through some expensive downtown law firm, threatening harassment charges if he continued attempting contact. A private investigator's report from 2015 with photos of me at my high school graduation, my first job, my college acceptance. My father had been watching over me from a distance, respecting the legal boundaries Linda had created while desperately trying to be part of my life. At the very bottom of the box was a letter dated just 6 months ago, written in the same careful handwriting but noticeably shakier. Asterisk, Emma. You're 22 now, and I know Linda can't legally keep this from you anymore. I've hired a lawyer to help me reach out properly. I don't know if you'll want to see me after all these years, or if you even know the truth about what happened. But I've saved every penny I would have spent on birthdays and Christmas mornings with you. I want to help with your college loans, or whatever you need. I just want my daughter back. I'll be at Murphy's coffee shop on 1st Street every Saturday morning at 10 a.m., waiting, just in case you get this and want to talk. All my love. Dad asterisk. I checked my phone. Today was Saturday. It was 9:43 a.m. Murphy's coffee shop was 12 minutes away. I sat in my car outside Murphy's coffee shop for 15 minutes, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles had gone white. Through the window, I could see him, a man in his late 40s with graying brown hair, sitting alone at a corner table with 2 coffee cups in front of him. He kept checking his phone and glancing at the door with the kind of desperate hope that made my chest ache. Marcus Webb. My father. He looked nothing like the monster Linda had described. No track marks, no hollow cheeks or shifty eyes. Just a tired-looking man in a clean flannel shirt, clutching a coffee cup like a lifeline. When he smiled at the barista who refilled his cup, I could see my own dimples reflected in his face. I almost chickened out 3 times before finally pushing through the door. The little bell chimed, and his head snapped up. Our eyes met across the crowded shop, and I watched 22 years of pain and longing crash across his features. Emma. His voice cracked on my name. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. He stood up so fast he nearly knocked over his chair, then seemed to catch himself, unsure if he was allowed to approach me. The uncertainty in his movements broke something loose in my chest. I brought coffee, he said unnecessarily, gesturing to the extra cup. I didn't know how you liked it, so I got cream and sugar on the side. I know that's. God, I should know how my daughter takes her coffee. Black, I managed. I drink it black. His face lit up like I just handed him the moon. Like your mom. Sarah always said coffee with cream was just hot milk pretending to be grown up. I slid into the seat across from him, and for a moment we just stared at each other. He had Mom's eyes, the same green gold I saw in my mirror every morning. Linda always said I looked exactly like her, conveniently leaving out that I had my father's stubborn chin and his long fingers. You found them, he said finally. The letters. All of them. My voice came out harder than I intended. Every birthday card. Every Christmas present. 22 years worth. His hands tightened around his coffee cup. I wasn't sure she'd kept them. Part of me hoped she'd thrown them away, at least then you wouldn't know how long I'd been trying to reach you. She kept the child support payments too. $172,000. I pulled out my phone and showed him the bank statements I'd photographed. She told me you never paid a dime. The color drained from his face. Jesus Christ. Emma, I'm so sorry. I tried everything, lawyers, private investigators, even showing up at your school once, but her attorney threatened to have me arrested for stalking. They said any contact would traumatize you further. Traumatize me? The words came out louder than I intended, drawing stares from nearby tables. She told me you were a drug addict who didn't want me. Do you know what that does to a kid? Thinking your own father couldn't be bothered to send a birthday card. Tears were sliding down his cheeks now, and he didn't seem to care who saw them. I sent one every year. Sometimes 2, just in case the first got lost. And presents, remember that American Girl doll phase when you were 8? I must have bought you half their catalog. My heart stopped. How did you know about that? I hired someone to watch over you. Just to make sure you were safe, happy. I have pictures. He trailed off, looking ashamed. God, that sounds so creepy. I just needed to know you were okay. Show me, I whispered. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone with shaking hands. The photo album was labeled Emma and contained hundreds of pictures spanning decades. Me at 8, gap-toothed and grinning at my elementary school science fair. Me at 16, rolling my eyes as Linda forced me to pose before junior prom. Me last month, walking across campus with my textbooks. I know how this looks, he said quickly, seeing my expression. But I needed to know you were growing up okay. That you were healthy and safe and... Linda knew, didn't she? The realization hit me like a physical blow. She knew you were having me watched. His silence was answer enough. That's why she was always so paranoid about me walking alone after dark. Why she insisted on driving me everywhere until I was 18. She wasn't protecting me from random strangers, she was trying to keep your investigator from getting close enough to talk to me. Emma, I swear to you, I never told him to approach you. Just to watch from a distance and make sure. How much? I cut him off. How much did you pay Linda to stay away? What? He looked genuinely confused. I never paid Linda anything. Why would I pay her to keep my own daughter from me? I stared at him. The custody agreement. She said you signed away your parental rights in exchange for not having to pay child support. That's impossible. I never signed anything like that. His face was pale now. Emma, I fought for custody until you turned 18. Linda's lawyer kept filing restraining orders, claiming I was harassing you both. Every time I tried to challenge it, they produced some new evidence of threatening behavior. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda, *, where are you? You've been gone for hours. Getting worried, *. She doesn't know I found the letters, I said, more to myself than to him. She has no idea I'm here. Marcus followed my gaze to the phone. You can't tell her. Not yet. Why not? Because if she's been lying about the custody agreement, if she's been collecting child support while telling you I never paid. He ran a hand through his hair. Emma, that's fraud. Potentially criminal fraud, depending on how she filed her taxes, what she told the state assistant's office. The pieces clicked together in my mind. She claimed single mother benefits. Food stamps, housing assistance, reduced college tuition. She's been getting aid for 20 years while secretly collecting your support payments and sitting on a $400,000 life insurance policy. Jesus. He leaned back in his chair. How much do you think she's stolen total? I did quick mental math. Child support, fraudulent benefits, the life insurance money she lied about, probably close to $500,000. Maybe more. That's federal fraud. She could go to prison. The weight of it settled on me. Linda, the woman who'd raised me, who'd held me when I cried about my deadbeat father, who'd worked double shifts at the diner to keep us afloat, had been living off stolen money for 2 decades. Every birthday dinner she couldn't afford, every Christmas where she apologized for the small gifts, every time she made me feel guilty for wanting nice things because money's tight, all lies. I have to confront her, I said. Not alone. Marcus's voice was firm. If she's desperate enough to commit fraud for 20 years, there's no telling what she'll do if she's cornered. She raised me. She wouldn't hurt me. Emma. His eyes were sad. She's been hurting you your entire life. I stared at my father, the words still felt foreign in my mind, as his warning echoed between us. The coffee shop suddenly felt too warm, too crowded, too normal for the magnitude of what we were discussing. What do you mean, there's no telling what she'll do? I asked, though part of me already knew. Marcus pulled out a manila envelope I hadn't noticed before. After I hired the lawyer 6 months ago to contact you legally, Linda's behavior escalated. I started getting these. He slid 3 printed emails across the table. The sender was listed as e.sullivan.2001@gmail.com, my supposed email address, though I'd never seen it before. Marcus. *, I'm 22 now and Linda finally told me the truth about you. I don't want anything to do with a man who abandoned his family. Stop trying to contact me or I'll file harassment charges myself. I never want to see you, *. Emma. The second email was worse, *, I'm getting married next month and my fiancé knows all about what kind of man you are. Don't ruin this for me like you ruined everything else. If you really loved me, you'd disappear for good, *. The third, dated just 2 weeks ago, *, I'm dropping out of college because I can't handle the stress of knowing you're out there watching me. Leave me alone or I'll kill myself. This is your fault, *. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the papers. I never wrote these. I don't even have a boyfriend, let alone a fiancé. And I'm not dropping out, I just made Dean's List. I know that now. But at the time. His voice broke. Emma, when I got that last email, I seriously considered giving up. I thought maybe I really was destroying your life by trying to be part of it. She created a fake email account using my name. The violation felt worse than the financial fraud somehow. She's been impersonating me for months. It gets worse. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. This is from Facebook, posted 3 days ago. The post was on a profile with my name and an old photo Linda must have pulled from my actual social media. It read, *, some people don't know when to let go. If my biological father keeps stalking me and my family, I'll have no choice but to get the police involved. Mental illness runs in families and I'm scared of what he might do, *. The post had 43 likes and dozens of comments from people in our small town. Mrs. Chen from the grocery store, *, so sorry you're dealing with this, honey. Some men just can't accept rejection, *, my high school English teacher, *, stay safe, Emma. Document everything in case you need a restraining order, *. She's been destroying your reputation, I whispered. Making the whole town think you're some kind of dangerous stalker. The private investigator I hired had to stop working my case last week. Someone called his office claiming to be you, threatening to report him to the state licensing board for helping a stalker harass a young woman. I felt sick. Linda hadn't just stolen money and intercepted letters, she'd been conducting a systematic campaign to isolate my father, using my name and identity as weapons. Every avenue he tried to reach me through, she'd poisoned in advance. How long have you known about the fake emails? I asked. I suspected after the second one. The writing style was off, too formal, and you used phrases that sounded like Linda. But I couldn't prove it until now. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Linda, *Emma, seriously, where are you? I called the Hendersons and you never showed up to help with decorations. Call me back now, *. I looked at the timestamp. I'd been gone for 3 hours, and Linda was clearly panicking. In 22 years, I'd never disappeared without telling her where I was going. I'd never needed to, she'd always made me feel guilty enough that I voluntarily reported my every movement. I need to go home, I said, standing up abruptly. She's getting suspicious. Marcus grabbed my wrist gently. Emma, wait. We need a plan. If you confront her unprepared, she'll just destroy the evidence and disappear. Or worse, she'll convince you that I'm lying about all of this. She can't. I have the letters, the bank statements. Do you? Or are they still in her house, where she can claim you forged them? I froze. The shoebox was still in Linda's attic, exactly where I'd found it. In my rush to find my father, I'd left behind the only proof of her 22-year deception. I have to get them back, I said. Tonight, while she's sleeping. No. Marcus's voice was firm. We do this right, or we don't do it at all. I'm not losing you again because we got careless. My phone rang. Linda's contact photo, a smiling selfie we'd taken last Christmas, filled the screen. For the first time in my life, the sight of her face made me feel sick. Answer it, Marcus said quietly. Act normal. Tell her you lost track of time shopping or something. We need to buy ourselves time to figure this out. I swiped to answer, my heart hammering. Hey Linda, sorry, Where the hell are you? Her voice was sharp with panic. You've been gone for hours without a word. That's not like you, Emma. No, I thought. It wasn't like me. Because she'd spent 22 years training me to never be more than an hour away from her watchful eye. I'm fine, I managed. Just ran some errands. I'll be home soon. What errands? Everything's closed on Saturday morning except, she paused, and I could practically hear her mind working. Emma, you better not be doing something stupid. The line went dead. Marcus was already standing, throwing money on the table. We need to go. Now. She knows, I said, staring at my phone. The way she said everything's closed except. She was thinking about Murphy's coffee shop. It's the only place open on Saturday mornings. Marcus was already pulling on his jacket. How far is your house from here? 15 minutes if she drives. But Marcus, she doesn't know about you being here. She might just think I'm. Emma. His voice was deadly serious. In 22 years, have you ever disappeared for 3 hours without telling her where you were going? The answer hit me like ice water. Never. And she's been monitoring your location through what? Life 360, find my phone. I checked my settings with growing dread. Find my friends. She set it up when I got my license, said it was for emergencies. The app showed my location as Murphy's coffee shop. Linda had been watching me sit here for the past hour. She's probably already in the car, Marcus said, scanning the parking lot. We need to get to those documents before she does. She wouldn't destroy them. They're hidden, she probably forgot they were even there. Emma, think. She's been running a sophisticated fraud operation for 2 decades. You think she'd be careless enough to leave evidence sitting around? He grabbed my shoulders gently. The only reason that box still exists is because she thought she'd never get caught. Now that you've found it. My stomach dropped. She'll say I planted everything. That you gave me fake letters to turn me against her. Exactly. So we need witnesses, documentation, proof that can't be disputed. He was already dialing his phone. David? It's Marcus Webb. I need you to meet me at 1247 Maple Street immediately, and bring your camera. Yes, I know it's Saturday. David, I found her. I found my daughter. Who's David? I asked as he hung up. My lawyer. He's been working this case for 6 months. Marcus was walking quickly toward his truck, and I hurried to keep up. Emma, I need you to call someone, a friend, a neighbor, someone who can witness what we find in that house. I can't just show up with strangers and ransack Linda's attic. It's not ransacking if it's evidence of a crime. And legally, those letters were addressed to you. She had no right to keep them. He paused at his truck door. But if you're not ready for this. No. The word came out harder than I intended. I'm ready. I'm so tired of being lied to. I thought about who I could call. My college roommate Jessica lived 2 hours away. My work friend Mike would ask too many questions. Then it hit me. Mrs. Patterson, I said, dialing. She's our next-door neighbor, retired, and she's always been suspicious of Linda anyway. Suspicious how? She used to ask pointed questions about why my father never visited, why Linda worked such long hours but always seemed to have money for expensive things. The phone rang twice before Mrs. Patterson answered. Emma, dear. How are you? Mrs. Patterson, I need a huge favor. Can you meet me at my house in 20 minutes? It's important, and I need someone trustworthy to witness something. Witness what? You're scaring me, honey. I found out Linda's been lying to me about my father. For 22 years. I need to retrieve some documents before she gets home, and I need someone there who can't be accused of helping me fake evidence. There was a long pause. I'll be there in 15 minutes. And Emma? I always suspected something wasn't right about that woman's stories. As I hung up, Marcus's lawyer called back. David's bringing a notary and a court reporter, Marcus told me. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. We drove in convoy toward Maple Street, Marcus's truck, followed by David's sedan. As we turned onto my street, I saw Linda's car already in the driveway. She was home. My heart sank as we parked across the street from the house I'd called home for 19 years. Linda's beat-up Honda was sitting in the driveway, and through the living room window, I could see her pacing back and forth with her phone pressed to her ear. "She's calling someone," I whispered, though we were too far away for her to hear us. Marcus cut the engine and turned to face me. "Emma, listen carefully. We can turn around right now. Go back to the coffee shop, take time to process all this. You don't have to confront her today." "Yes, I do." I watched Linda disappear from the window, probably heading upstairs. "She's going for the box right now. If I wait, there won't be any evidence left." Mrs. Patterson's silver Buick pulled up behind us, followed by David's sedan. Through my side mirror, I watched a tall man in a weekend suit get out, carrying a briefcase and what looked like camera equipment. A younger woman emerged from the passenger side with a small recording device. "That's a lot of people," I said, suddenly feeling overwhelmed. "Emma Webb Sullivan." Mrs. Patterson appeared at my window, her gray hair perfectly styled despite the early hour. She'd clearly taken time to put on her good jewelry, the pearl earrings she wore to church and town council meetings. "Are you all right, dear? You look pale." I got out of the truck on shaking legs. "Mrs. Patterson, this is my father, Marcus Webb. And his lawyer, David Morrison." Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows shot up, but she just nodded politely and shook Marcus's hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Mr. Webb. Though I have to say, this isn't quite what I expected when Emma called." David stepped forward with his business card. "Mrs. Patterson, I appreciate you coming on short notice. We may need you to witness and verify some documents we believe are hidden in the house. Would you be comfortable signing a notarized statement about what you observe?" "Depends on what I'm observing," she said dryly. "But I've lived next to Linda Sullivan for 8 years, and I've always wondered how a waitress could afford a $60,000 kitchen renovation while claiming she couldn't pay for Emma's school supplies." My stomach lurched. "What kitchen renovation?" 2 years ago. Linda told the contractor she'd inherited some money from a distant relative, but she had them paid in cash. I remember because they commented on it, said most people their age use financing for projects that expensive." Marcus and David exchanged glances. "Mrs. Patterson," David said carefully, "have you noticed any other unexplained expenses over the years?" "Well, Linda's car is always breaking down, but somehow she manages to take those week-long trips to Florida every winter. Says she's visiting her sister, but..." Mrs. Patterson paused, looking uncomfortable. "I probably shouldn't speculate." "Please," I said. "I need to know. I've never seen any pictures of this sister, never heard Linda mention her except when she's explaining where she got money for something. New furniture, Emma's college textbooks, that expensive roof repair last spring." Mrs. Patterson looked directly at me. "Honey, I've always wondered if your father was really as absent as Linda claimed. Most deadbeat dads don't inspire that level of paranoia." "What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "Linda checks Emma's location constantly. Has cameras installed around the house, says it's for security, but they're all pointed at the driveway and street, not the doors. She gets nervous when Emma's gone for more than an hour, and she's always asking the neighbors if we've seen any suspicious men hanging around." The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Linda hadn't just been stealing money and intercepting letters, she'd been living in constant fear of being caught. Every security measure, every paranoid behavior, every restriction on my freedom had been about protecting her lies. "She knew you were out there," I said to Marcus. "All these years, she knew you were trying to reach me, and she was terrified you'd succeed." A light came on in the attic window above us. Linda had found the empty shoebox. My phone buzzed with a text, "Emma, come inside. Now. We need to talk, asterisk." "She knows," I whispered, showing the others my screen. "She knows I found everything." David was already moving toward the house, his camera ready. "Then we better move fast." The front door was unlocked. Linda never bothered locking it during the day in our quiet neighborhood. But as I pushed it open, I could hear her footsteps pounding down the attic stairs above us, moving with desperate urgency. "Emma." Linda's voice echoed through the house, high-pitched with panic. "Emma, where are you? We need to talk right now." I gestured for the others to wait in the entryway while I stepped into the living room. The familiar space looked different now, the expensive leather couch Linda had bought, on sale, the 65-inch TV she'd claimed was a gift from her manager, the hardwood floors she'd installed after my high school graduation. Everything I'd grown up believing we couldn't afford, paid for with money stolen from my father. Linda appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching the shoebox against her chest like a shield. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, and mascara smudged under her eyes. When she saw me, relief and fury warred across her face. "There you are," she said, descending slowly. "Do you want to explain why you were digging through my private things?" "Your private things?" I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. "Those letters were addressed to me, Linda. 22 years worth of letters from my father." She froze halfway down the stairs. "Emma, sweetheart, you don't understand. Those letters, they're not what you think." "Really?" "Because they seem pretty clear to me. Birthday cards, Christmas presents, child support payments. Everything you told me he never sent." "He didn't send them to you," Linda said, her voice taking on the patient tone she used when explaining why I couldn't have something I wanted. "He sent them to me, trying to manipulate you through me. They're full of lies, Emma. Promises he never intended to keep." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of the fake Facebook post. "Like this promise? The one where you pretended to be me and told the whole town he was stalking me?" The color drained from Linda's face. "Emma, I can explain." "Explain this too." I held up the printed email where she'd impersonated me threatening suicide. "You told him I was going to kill myself because of him. Do you have any idea what that did to him?" Linda's grip tightened on the shoebox. "He deserved it. After what he put us through, after abandoning you when you needed him most." "He never abandoned me." The words exploded out of me. "He paid child support for 15 years. $800 a month, Linda. Money you collected while telling me we were broke. That money was compensation," Linda snapped, her mask finally slipping. "Compensation for what he put your mother through. What he put me through, having to raise his child alone. You weren't alone by choice. He wanted to be involved. He fought for custody until I turned 18. He would have ruined your life. Linda's voice cracked. Just like he ruined Sarah's. Your mother was happy before she met him. She had plans, dreams. Mom died in a car accident when I was 3. What does any of this have to do with my father? Linda's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. For a moment, she looked genuinely confused, as if she'd forgotten which lies she was supposed to be telling. Mrs. Sullivan. David's voice came from the entryway. I'm David Morrison, attorney for Marcus Webb. I need to inform you that we have documentation showing potential mail fraud, identity theft, and fraudulent collection of government benefits spanning 2 decades. Linda spun around, seeing the lawyer and court reporter for the first time. Get out of my house. You have no right. Actually, we do. David stepped forward calmly, Mrs. Patterson and the notary flanking him. Those documents in your possession contain evidence of federal crimes. We're prepared to wait for police to arrive with a warrant, or you can cooperate now. Linda hugged the shoebox tighter. Emma, don't let them do this. I'm your family. I'm the one who raised you, who loved you when no one else would. But as I looked at her, really looked at her, I saw a stranger. The woman I'd called Aunt Linda, my entire life was falling apart before my eyes, but something in her desperation felt calculated. Even now, caught red-handed with evidence of decades of fraud, she was working the angles. Emma, honey, you have to understand, Linda said, setting the shoebox down on the coffee table but keeping herself between it and the rest of us. I was protecting you. Your father, he wasn't stable back then. The courts agreed with me. What courts? David asked sharply. Mr. Webb never had a custody hearing. Every petition was withdrawn due to harassment claims that we now know were fabricated. Linda's laugh was bitter. Of course he'd say that. Marcus, you always were good at rewriting history. She looked past me toward the entryway. Are you really going to hide behind lawyers and let them poison my daughter against me? I heard footsteps, and Marcus appeared in the doorway. The moment Linda saw him, her entire demeanor changed. The frantic, caught-off-guard woman disappeared, replaced by someone cold and controlled. Hello, Linda, Marcus said quietly. It's been a long time. Not long enough. Her voice carried a venom that made me step back. I should have known you'd eventually find a way to manipulate Emma into this. What did you promise her? College money? A car? Or did you just play the poor abandoned father routine? I didn't manipulate anyone, Marcus replied. Emma found your little treasure box all by herself. Linda's eyes flicked to me, and for the first time I saw genuine fear there. Emma, whatever he's told you, whatever lies he's filled your head with. The only lies came from you, I interrupted. 22 years of them. Do you want to explain why you've been cashing his child support checks while collecting single mother benefits from the state? Because I'm pretty sure that's called fraud. Those weren't child support payments, Linda said quickly. They were guilt payments. Hush money to keep me from telling people what he really did to your mother. Mrs. Patterson made a disgusted sound from the entryway. Linda Sullivan, I've heard some stories in my time, but this takes the cake. Stay out of this, Helen, Linda snapped. This is family business. Family business? Mrs. Patterson stepped into the room, her church jewelry glinting. Like when you told the Hendersons that Emma's father was in prison. Or when you told me he was dead. Which story was I supposed to believe? My blood went cold. You told people he was dead. Linda's face flushed. Different people needed to hear different things. Some people are too nosy for their own good. You told my guidance counselor in high school that both my parents were dead, I said, the memory surfacing with crystal clarity. I remember because she kept recommending grief counseling and I didn't understand why. Emma. And my college financial aid application. You checked the box for deceased father so I'd qualify for more grants. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. I bet if I call the financial aid office right now, they'll confirm that my aid package was calculated based on you being a single mother with a dead partner. Linda lunged for my phone, but Marcus stepped between us. Don't, he said firmly. You've done enough damage. Damage? Linda's voice rose to a shriek. I raised her. I fed her, clothed her, loved her when you couldn't be bothered to stick around. You stole from her. Marcus shot back. Every letter, every birthday card, every attempt I made to be part of her life, you stole all of it. I saved her from you. The words hung in the air like a slap. David was quietly photographing everything, the shoebox, the scattered letters, Linda's face twisted with years of accumulated rage. Save me from what, exactly? I asked. From having a father who loved me. From the child support that could have paid for better clothes, school trips, college textbooks. What exactly were you saving me from? Linda stared at me for a long moment, and I saw her calculating. Even now, she was figuring out which lie might still work, which story might salvage her position. Ask him about the night your mother died, she said finally. Ask him why he wasn't there when she needed him most. The words hit me like a physical blow. What are you talking about? Linda's eyes glittered with desperate triumph. March 15, 2002. Your mother called Marcus 3 times that night, begging him to come home. She was scared, Emma. There was a storm, the power kept going out, and you were running a fever. She needed him. I looked at Marcus, whose face had gone ashen. Dad? Emma, it's not. He was at some bar downtown, Linda continued, her voice gaining strength. Celebrating a promotion at work while his wife sat alone with a sick baby, terrified out of her mind. Sarah called me crying at midnight, said she tried reaching him for hours. Linda, stop, Marcus said quietly. When she finally decided to drive to the hospital herself because your fever spiked to 104, where do you think your precious father was? Linda's smile was vicious. Passed out drunk in his truck in some parking lot while his family needed him. My legs felt weak. Is that true? Marcus closed his eyes. Yes. But not the way she's telling it. Then tell me your version, I whispered. Your mother and I had been fighting for weeks. About money, about my job, about moving closer to her family. That night, she told me she was thinking about leaving, taking you and starting over somewhere else. Marcus's voice was barely audible. I was 25 years old and stupid, and instead of staying to work it out, I went drinking with my coworkers. He abandoned you both when you needed him most, Linda said. Just like he abandoned you for the next 20 years. That's not what happened. Marcus's voice cracked. I came home at 2 a.m. to an empty house. No note, no explanation. I called the hospitals, the police. The accident happened on Route 47, Linda interrupted. Sarah was driving to the emergency room because Emma's fever wouldn't break. If Marcus had been home like a decent husband and father, she never would have been on that road. The room tilted around me. You're saying Dad caused Mom's accident? I'm saying your mother died alone because the man who was supposed to protect her was too selfish to answer his phone. Linda, for God's sake, Mrs. Patterson interjected. That's enough. The girl doesn't need to hear. Yes, she does. Linda whirled on her. She needs to know what kind of man she's so eager to run to. Marcus Webb let his wife die, and then he spent the next 2 years drowning in guilt and self-pity while I held this family together. I stared at my father, waiting for him to deny it, to explain why Linda was wrong. Instead, he just stood there with tears streaming down his face. I'll never forgive myself for not being there, he said finally. Your mother needed me, and I failed her. I failed both of you. Finally, some honesty, Linda said. Now maybe Emma can understand why I couldn't let you waltz back into her life. You proved you couldn't be trusted when it mattered most. David cleared his throat. Mrs. Sullivan, while this is all very dramatic, it doesn't change the fact that you've been committing fraud for 2 decades. Mr. Webb's personal failings 20 years ago don't justify identity theft and stealing government benefits. Those benefits kept Emma fed and housed while her father was playing the victim, Linda snapped. No, Linda. I found my voice again. The child support payments kept me fed and housed. Along with Mom's life insurance money that you lied about. You didn't sacrifice anything, you've been living off stolen money my entire life. Linda's facade finally crumbled completely. Everything I did was for you. To protect you from ending up like your mother, trapped with a man who'll abandon you the moment things get difficult. You mean trapped like I've been with you? Never allowed to make my own decisions, never told the truth about my own family. I grabbed the shoebox from the coffee table. This stops now. Emma, please, Linda's voice turned pleading. I'm the only real family you have left. Don't throw that away for a man who's already proven he'll disappoint you. I looked at Marcus, still struggling with the weight of Linda's accusations. Then at the box full of letters he'd written to a daughter he thought didn't want him. Finally, at Linda, who'd built her entire life on a foundation of lies and stolen money. You're right about one thing, I said. Someone in this room has definitely proven they'll disappoint me. The silence stretched for what felt like hours before David spoke up. Mrs. Sullivan, we're going to need you to come down to the police station to answer some questions about these financial discrepancies. I'm not going anywhere, Linda said, backing toward the stairs. This is my house, and you're all trespassing. Actually, Mrs. Patterson said, consulting something on her phone, I took the liberty of calling my nephew Jake while you were all arguing. He's a detective with the county fraud unit, and he's very interested in this case. Linda's face went white. You called the police. I called family, Mrs. Patterson corrected. But yes, he happens to be police. He should be here in about 10 minutes. That's when Linda made her move. She bolted for the stairs, clearly heading for the attic, probably to destroy whatever evidence might still be up there. But Marcus was faster. He caught her arm halfway up the staircase. Let go of me. Linda screamed, clawing at his hand. Emma, call 911. He's attacking me. The only thing I'm calling is the IRS, I said, pulling out my phone. I bet they'd love to hear about $172,000 in unreported child support income. Linda stopped struggling and turned to stare at me. You wouldn't. Try me. I also have questions about how you afforded that Florida condo you bought 3 years ago. The one you told me belonged to your imaginary sister. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. What Florida condo? 1247, Ocean Vista Drive, Panama City Beach, I recited from memory. I found the property tax bills when I was looking for my birth certificate last year. Linda said they belonged to her sister Margaret, but I could never figure out why her sister's mail was coming to our house. David was typing furiously on his phone. Ocean Vista Drive, that's a pretty expensive area. Condos there go for $300,000 minimum. She paid cash, Mrs. Patterson added helpfully. I remember because Linda was bragging to the mailman about her investment property. Said she'd always been good with money. Linda sank down onto the stairs, the fight going out of her. Emma, you don't understand the pressure I was under. Raising a child alone, working double shifts, never knowing if Marcus would suddenly decide he wanted you back. You mean never knowing if I'd find out the truth, I corrected. Every paranoid security measure, every restriction on my freedom, every lie about Dad being dangerous, it was all to cover up your theft. Marcus released Linda's arm and stepped back. How much did you take total, Linda? The child support, the life insurance, the fraudulent benefits, what's the real number? I didn't take anything, Linda said desperately. That money was owed to me. Compensation for raising Marcus's daughter when he couldn't be bothered. Compensation. David laughed harshly. Ma'am, that's not how child support works. That money belonged to Emma, not you. I spent it on Emma. Her food, her clothes, her school. Her school that she had to take out loans for because you claimed we were broke, I interrupted. Her clothes from thrift stores while you wore designer jeans. Her food that was mostly ramen and cereal while you ate steaks you claimed were manager discounts. I pulled out my laptop and opened my student loan account. Linda, I currently owe $47,000 in college loans. Money I borrowed because you said we couldn't afford tuition, while you were secretly sitting on almost $500,000. The number hung in the air like an accusation. Even Mrs. Patterson whistled low. Emma, Linda's voice was barely a whisper. I was going to help you pay those off after graduation. I was saving. You were saving for yourself, I said firmly. Just like you always have. That's when we heard the sirens. The sirens grew louder, and through the front window I could see red and blue lights painting the neighbors' houses in alternating colors. Linda's breathing became shallow and rapid. Emma, listen to me, she said, gripping the stair banister so hard her knuckles went white. Before they get in here, you need to know something else. Something about why I really kept Marcus away. More lies. I asked, but something in her tone made me pause. Your mother didn't just call Marcus 3 times that night, Linda said, the words tumbling out in a rush. She called me too. At 11:47 p.m., crying hysterically because she'd found something in Marcus's truck. Marcus went rigid. Linda, don't. What did she find? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. Receipts, Linda said. Hotel receipts from the Marriott downtown. 3 different dates over 2 months, all times when Marcus claimed he was working late. Her eyes locked on my father's face. Your mother found out he was having an affair, Emma. That's why she was leaving that night. The words hit me like a physical blow. That's not true. Room 247, Linda continued relentlessly. September 12th, October 3rd, October 24th, Sarah had the receipts in her purse when they pulled her out of the car. Marcus's face had gone gray. How do you know about those receipts? Because I was the one who had to identify her body and collect her personal effects, Linda snapped. While you were passed out drunk, I was at the morgue dealing with the aftermath of your selfishness. David stepped forward. Mrs. Sullivan, even if this is true, it doesn't justify. 23 years old and pregnant, Linda cut him off. That's how old Sarah was when she found out Marcus was cheating. The baby would have been Emma's little brother or sister. The room spun around me. Mom was pregnant. 8 weeks along, Linda said. She was going to tell Marcus that night, try to save the marriage for the sake of both children. Instead, she found evidence that he'd been lying to her for months. I looked at Marcus, waiting for him to deny it, to explain why Linda was wrong again. But his silence stretched on, and I saw the truth written across his devastated face. The affair was over, he finally whispered. It had been over for weeks. I was trying to figure out how to tell Sarah, how to fix what I'd broken. By continuing to lie to her. Linda's voice dripped with disgust. Sarah spent her last night alive believing her husband preferred another woman to his pregnant wife. Car doors slammed outside, and heavy footsteps approached the front door. Mrs. Patterson went to answer it, and I heard her greeting someone. Jake, thank God you're here. Emma, Marcus said desperately, I know how this looks, but you have to understand, I was young and stupid and scared about becoming a father again. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything to Mom, I said, my voice hollow. She died thinking you didn't love her. I did love her. More than anything. The affair was a mistake, a horrible, selfish mistake that I regretted every single day. Detective Jake Patterson entered the room, Mrs. Patterson's nephew, a man in his 40s with tired eyes and a grim expression. He took in the scene quickly, the shoebox of evidence, Linda clutching the stairs, Marcus's tear-stained face, and me standing in the middle of it all trying to process 22 years of lies layered on top of more lies. Mrs. Patterson filled me in on the basics, Detective Patterson said, pulling out a notebook. We're looking at potential mail fraud, identity theft, and benefits fraud spanning 2 decades. That's correct, David answered, gesturing to the evidence spread across the coffee table. My client has documentation showing systematic interception of correspondence and fraudulent collection of government assistance. Detective Patterson's gaze settled on Linda. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me to answer some questions. You have the right to remain silent. Wait, Linda said, standing on shaking legs. Emma, before they take me away, you need to understand why I did this. It wasn't about money. It was never about money. Then what was it about? I asked. Linda looked directly at me, and for the first time in hours, her expression was completely genuine. I loved you more than your own parents did. And I wasn't going to let Marcus destroy your life the way he destroyed Sarah's. The words hit me like a slap. You loved me more than my own parents. Your mother was going to run away that night, Linda said, her voice gaining desperate strength. Not just from Marcus, from you too, Emma. She was 8 weeks pregnant and terrified, and she called me sobbing about how she couldn't handle raising 2 children alone. That's not true, Marcus said sharply. Ask Detective Patterson to pull the phone records from March 15, 2002, Linda shot back. Sarah called me at 11:52 p.m. and talked for 17 minutes. She said she was going to drive to her sister's house in Oregon and start over. She was going to leave you with Marcus and disappear. My legs felt weak. She wouldn't abandon me. She was 23 years old, pregnant, and heartbroken, Linda continued relentlessly. She found hotel receipts proving her husband was cheating, and she snapped. Said she couldn't look at you anymore because you had Marcus's eyes, Marcus's stubborn chin. Every time she saw you, she was reminded of his betrayal. Detective Patterson stepped closer. Mrs. Sullivan, you're making some serious accusations about a deceased person who can't defend herself. I'm telling the truth for the first time in 20 years, Linda said. Sarah was going to abandon Emma that night. The only reason she had Emma in the car was because I convinced her not to leave a 3-year-old alone with a drunk father who might not come home for hours. Marcus was shaking his head. Sarah would never. Sarah was going to give you full custody and disappear, Linda interrupted. She had $3,000 in cash in her purse, money she'd been hiding from you for weeks, planning her escape. The pregnancy was just the final straw. Mrs. Patterson made a disgusted sound. Linda, even if any of this were true, it doesn't excuse 20 years of fraud. I saved Emma from being abandoned by both parents, Linda said fiercely. Marcus with his affairs and his drinking, Sarah with her threats to run away and start over. I was the only one who actually wanted to raise that little girl. Wanted to, or wanted the money that came with her? Detective Patterson asked. Linda's facade cracked again. You think $800 a month was some windfall? Do you have any idea how much it costs to raise a child? Daycare, doctor's visits, clothes she'd outgrow in 6 months. Then why hide the payments? I asked. Why not tell me Dad was supporting us? Because I knew he'd use them as leverage to get you back. Linda's voice rose to near hysteria. Every month, those checks came with letters about how much he missed you, how he wanted to be part of your life. It was manipulation, Emma. He was buying access to you. David held up one of the letters. Mrs. Sullivan, this is a birthday card for a 9-year-old. Are you seriously claiming that, happy birthday, sweetheart, daddy loves you, is manipulation? When it comes from a man who drove his wife to her death. Yes. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Detective Patterson was taking notes, but I could see the skepticism in his expression. Linda, I said quietly, even if everything you're saying about that night is true, it doesn't change what you did afterward. You stole my father's money while telling me he'd abandoned us. You created fake social media accounts using my name. You've been living off stolen benefits for 2 decades. I protected you, Linda said, but her voice was losing its conviction. No, I said firmly. You stole from me. And now it's time to pay it back. Detective Patterson clicked his pen. Mrs. Sullivan, we're going to need to continue this conversation at the station. Detective Patterson was in the middle of reading Linda her rights when his radio crackled to life. Unit 47, we need you to hold position. We've got an issue with the warrant. My heart sank. What does that mean? It means, Linda said with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all day, that they can't take any of this evidence without proper legal documentation. And since this is all technically my property, found in my house. David was already on his phone with someone, speaking in urgent, clipped tones. Yes, I understand, but we have multiple witnesses. What do you mean insufficient probable cause? Detective Patterson looked frustrated. I'm sorry, folks. Without a warrant, anything we've observed here today is inadmissible. Mrs. Sullivan is free to go for now. Like hell she is, I said, grabbing the shoebox before Linda could reach it. These letters were addressed to me. That makes them my property, not hers. Emma, put that down, Linda said, her confidence returning. Those documents were in my house, in my attic. You were trespassing when you found them. I live here, I shot back. I've lived here for 19 years. That's not trespassing. Detective Patterson held up his hands. Let's not complicate this further. Ms. Webb Sullivan, technically your aunt is correct. Without a warrant, we can't seize evidence from a private residence. I felt the case slipping away from us. 22 years of lies, and Linda was going to walk away because of a technicality. But then Mrs. Patterson spoke up from the corner. What about the mail fraud? She asked innocently. Jake, didn't you tell me once that intercepting someone else's mail is a federal crime? Even if it's delivered to your address. Linda's face went pale. Those letters were sent to my house. Addressed to Emma, Mrs. Patterson continued. I remember because the mailman, Jerry Chen, used to comment on how strange it was that Emma never seemed to get any birthday cards, even though he delivered dozens over the years to this address with her name on them. Detective Patterson's eyes sharpened. Jerry Chen is still our regular postal carrier. He'd remember details like that, mailmen notice patterns. He looked directly at Linda. Ma'am, if we can prove you systematically intercepted mail addressed to another person, that's a federal offense regardless of where the mail was physically located. I was Emma's legal guardian, Linda said quickly. I had every right to screen her correspondence. Until she turned 18, David interjected, consulting something on his phone. Ms. Webb Sullivan has been an adult for 4 years. Any mail intercepted during that time was definitely illegal. I thought back to the letters I'd found, remembering the postmarks. The most recent letter was from 6 months ago. I was definitely 21 then. Linda's lawyer confidence was cracking again. Emma wasn't living here 6 months ago. She was away at college. But her permanent address was still listed here, Marcus said. I sent that letter to her legal residence, not to you. You opened mail that was clearly intended for an adult who happened to be your niece. Detective Patterson was making notes again. That we can investigate immediately. Federal mail fraud doesn't require the same warrant procedures as a local search. He looked at Linda with renewed interest. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me after all. This is harassment, Linda said, but I could hear the panic creeping back into her voice. You're all ganging up on me because Marcus has convinced you I'm some kind of criminal. The evidence convinced us you're some kind of criminal, Mrs. Patterson said dryly. Marcus just gave us the context. As Detective Patterson moved toward Linda with handcuffs, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Emma Webb Sullivan. Yes. This is Janet Morrison from the State Department of Social Services. We received an anonymous tip about potential benefits fraud involving your household. We need to speak with you and Linda Sullivan immediately. I met Linda's eyes across the room. Someone called the state. That would be me, Mrs. Patterson said, not looking remotely apologetic. I figured if the local police needed warrants, maybe the benefits investigators would be more efficient. Linda's last shred of composure finally snapped completely. You vindictive old bitch. Linda screamed, lunging toward Mrs. Patterson. Detective Patterson caught her arm before she could reach her target, but Linda wasn't done. 22 years I've been the perfect neighbor, helping with your groceries, shoveling your driveway, and this is how you repay me. By expecting you to follow the law. Mrs. Patterson replied coolly. Linda, I've watched you for 8 years. Designer handbags while claiming you couldn't afford Emma's school supplies. A new car every 3 years while collecting food stamps. Did you really think no one would notice? My phone was still connected to Janet Morrison. Ms. Webb Sullivan. Are you there? We need to schedule an interview within 48 hours, or we'll be forced to freeze all benefits associated with your household while we investigate. I'll call you back, I said, hanging up. The walls felt like they were closing in. Linda, exactly how many government programs have you been scamming? I wasn't scamming anyone. But Linda's voice had lost all its conviction. Single mothers are entitled to assistance. I qualified for everything I received. Single mothers whose partners are actually absent, David corrected, still photographing evidence despite the warrant issues. Not single mothers who are secretly collecting $800 monthly from the supposedly absent partner while claiming sole financial responsibility. Detective Patterson was speaking into his radio again. Unit 47 to dispatch. We need someone from the Federal Postal Inspector's office at 1247 Maple Street. And contact the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, we may have a tax evasion case. The IRS. Linda's face went white. You can't involve them without proof of wrongdoing. Ma'am, failing to report $172,000 in income over 15 years is definitely proof of wrongdoing, Detective Patterson replied. That's assuming you didn't report the child support payments on your tax returns. Linda's silence was answer enough. Marcus stepped forward, and I saw something hard in his expression that hadn't been there before. Linda, I need to ask you something, and I want the truth. That night Sarah died, did she really call you? Of course she called me. I already told you. Because I've been thinking about the timeline, and something doesn't add up. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her something. I still have the phone records from that night. Sarah called me at 11:23 p.m., 11:31 p.m., and 11:47 p.m. But according to the police report, the accident happened at 11:52 p.m. Linda shifted uncomfortably. So, she called me after she couldn't reach you. The accident was on Route 47, which is a 15-minute drive from our house. If she called you at 11:52 and talked for 17 minutes like you claimed, she would have been in the car during that entire conversation. Marcus's voice was getting stronger. But the police report says her phone was found in her purse, not connected to any calls. Mrs. Patterson was watching this exchange with fascination. Linda. You want to explain that inconsistency? The times might be wrong. It was 20 years ago, I don't remember every detail perfectly. But you remembered the hotel room number, I pointed out. Room 247. You were very specific about that. Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish. For the first time since this confrontation began, she had no ready answer. David looked up from his notes. Mrs. Sullivan, are you saying you may have fabricated the details about Sarah's phone call? I'm not fabricating anything. Linda's voice cracked. Sarah was miserable, terrified, planning to leave, that part was all true. Maybe I don't have the exact timeline right, but you've been using those fabricated details to justify 20 years of theft, I finished. Even if Mom was unhappy, even if Dad made mistakes, that didn't give you the right to steal from me. Detective Patterson clicked his handcuffs. Mrs. Linda Sullivan, you're under arrest for mail fraud, benefits fraud, and identity theft. 6 months later, I sat in the courthouse watching Linda get sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for mail fraud, benefits fraud, identity theft, and tax evasion. The judge was thorough in his condemnation. Mrs. Sullivan, you systematically stole $847,000 over 20 years, Judge Henderson said, consulting his notes. This includes $172,000 in intercepted child support, $89,000 in fraudulent SNAP benefits, $156,000 in housing assistance you weren't entitled to, and $430,000 in life insurance money that should have been held in trust for the minor child. Linda sat hunched at the defendant's table, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd raised me. Her lawyer had negotiated the plea deal after the evidence became overwhelming. Jerry Chin, the mailman, testified about years of suspicious mail patterns. The IRS found unreported income dating back to 2002, and the State Benefits Office discovered forged documents claiming my father was deceased. Additionally, Judge Henderson continued, you'll be required to pay full restitution to Emma Webb Sullivan in the amount of $847,000, plus interest and penalties. Your assets, including the Florida condominium, will be liquidated to begin repayment immediately. I felt Marcus squeeze my hand. He'd been incredible through this whole process, patient, supportive, never pushing me to forgive him for his mistakes from 20 years ago. We'd spent months in family therapy, working through the complicated grief of losing time we could never get back. The truth about that night had eventually come out through phone records and witness statements. Mom hadn't called Linda at all. Linda had invented that entire story to justify her actions. Mom had tried to reach Dad, failed, and made the difficult decision to drive to the hospital alone when my fever spiked. It was just a tragic accident, made worse by Dad's absence but not caused by it. Your Honor, Linda said, standing shakily, I'd like to address the court. Judge Henderson nodded. You may speak. Linda turned to look at me directly. Emma, I know you hate me now. But everything I did because I loved you. I wanted to give you stability, security, a life free from disappointment. You gave me lies, I replied, surprising myself by speaking up in court. 22 years of lies. I gave you a home. I gave you a family. I was there for every nightmare, every scraped knee, every school play Marcus missed. Because you made sure he missed them, I said, standing up. Every opportunity he had to be my father, you sabotaged. And you did it while spending his money. Judge Henderson rapped his gavel. Mrs. Sullivan, do you have anything else to add? Linda looked defeated. I'm sorry it came to this. But I'm not sorry I protected Emma from the chaos her parents would have brought to her life. The defendant will be remanded to federal custody immediately, Judge Henderson announced. This court is adjourned. As the bailiff led Linda away in shackles, she looked back at me one more time. Emma, I hope someday you'll understand. But I already understood. I understood that love without honesty isn't love at all, it's control. I understood that Linda had stolen more than money, she'd stolen my choice to have a relationship with my father. Most importantly, I understood that I was finally free to build the family I'd always wanted. Outside the courthouse, Marcus and I walked to his truck, our truck now, since I moved in with him 3 months ago to make up for lost time. How do you feel? He asked. I thought about it. Like I can finally breathe. As we drove home, I realized Linda had been right about one thing, she definitely protected me from chaos. The problem was, she'd replaced it with something much worse, a lifetime of carefully orchestrated lies. Now, finally, I was ready for a little honest chaos with my father. Some promises, I thought, are meant to be broken.